My name is James McBride. I'm your instructor, obviously, and I started out in technology a very, very long time ago. Not in a galaxy far, far away, though. I was raised during the time, I was pretty young, but at the start of the PC revolution and in what happened with that. And that's part of some of the stuff we'll discuss in this class, because you can always learn a lot from history. History does repeat itself, and I will say this again in other videos, but in technology, because technology moves so rapidly, history repeats itself more quickly. But I started way back when, and honestly, my first exposure to computers was the same as many people's first exposures, which was a game system, right? I had one of those home arcade systems. I had an Odyssey 2, and it was incredible to be able to experience that. You know, I lived during the time of the arcades. I can't even describe to you. I wish I could be walking through one right now, right? I wish I could walk through one right now and you could hear all that noise. It was just kind of a magical experience as a kid. And things we often experience as a teenager or a kid are very vivid in our minds. But anyway, to tell you a little bit about myself, I have actually a degree in elementary education, and that's because I love teaching. I love being able to help a student take responsibility for their own education, because that's an important factor in our lives, and help them understand concepts that are difficult to understand, and try to explain them in different ways so that they can get the information in their head. I love to do that. I appreciate the instructors that did that for me. I'm still very fond of them. And that's why I went into elementary education. And what I found, though, as I went into elementary education, is that there was part of the process I didn't like. When I had to do my student teaching, oh my goodness, there's things I didn't enjoy. And so I ended up not actually becoming a teacher at that time. I ended up using all the computer skills I had and actually working for a company as a customer support person, which is honestly a place where a lot of people start. It's kind of a proving ground for many people going into IT to see if you can actually truly help somebody understand their situation and also truly understand the technology. And so I did that for several years. I needed advancements in pay, or wasn't getting paid what I wanted to get paid. And that's one of the things I'll mention probably at least 5 times, is that within technology, oh man, you can make as much as you want. You really can. You can go after it and make hundreds of thousands of dollars. You just figure out what you want to do and start down that path, right? And so what happened for me is I got a couple of certifications. At that time, there wasn't too many certification offerings. The ones that I took were Microsoft certifications, a networking one and an operating systems one. Immediately got a job as a network technician, which really ended up being a systems admin, network admin position as that business was growing and growing. And I did that for, let's just say, the total time. So the total time of everything I did in the industry was about 15 years. And then at the same time, I was also teaching classes. So I teach night classes. I taught the first networking course here at Eastern Arizona College back in 1998. I taught the first hardware PC fix-it course basically a year later, and did that every single semester. And then I came on full-time at Eastern Arizona College in 2005. And so my background is very practical because I love technology, because my brain seems to absorb it, which is fantastic. I love that my brain can do that. I learn things about technology really quickly, and I try to pass that on to my students. But again, I'm very practical in my approach. In other words, what do you need to know in order to actually do the job? And so I try to break those things down for you in any of the classes that you have to take from me, especially in this course. So I'll be talking a lot about, hey, heads up, right? This is going to happen to you in this class. So some of the things I did, break it down a little further. again, as a server admin, I dealt with Novell back in the day, and then transitions to Microsoft. I think the first server I used was 2003, and had that. Actually, no, I take that back. Windows NT4 was the first one that I actually installed and had to keep running. And then Server 2003 later. I set up email servers, set up domain servers, set up DNS, DHCP. This was during the time that the internet was really taking off. And so we went from not having people with any external email to having everybody have external email. We went from nobody really had internet access, but a couple of people, and then we went to everybody having internet access. Setting up routers, setting up the switches that we used, connecting the buildings with fiber optic. I did not run the fiber optic. That's a kind of technical thing. Company ran it, but I had to connect it all together. I got to do a lot of stuff. And I also had to help the people at the desk, right? So people that are going, hey, I can't find that Word file. My Excel files are corrupt. I should have backed this up. How are we backing this up? That kind of thing. Just helping people do that. And so I loved it. Absolutely loved it. But I just love teaching a little bit more. And so that's how I ended up at Eastern Arizona College, teaching for them, because I liked it more. I enjoyed it more. So when I look at what do we need to teach, what does a person need to take in order to get into IT, to be successful in IT, those are the courses that we've built. Now I say we, and what I mean by that is me and Lydia. Lydia also came from that background. She worked in IT as well. And she handles all the database courses, programming, some of the application courses. I don't program. I don't enjoy programming. I could do it if I had to, but I would just rather not do that. And you may be that type of person too, or you may not. And that's why we have you do a lot of different kinds of classes in our general degree to give you a taste of what is it that I really like. Maybe you do like data systems and you just don't know it. Maybe you like networking or security, but you just don't know it, right? So we introduce you to that. At the same time, I try to base my courses around certifications, because not only did I find those beneficial, but the industry demands them. And so I base them around there, so at least you're close enough to get that. So the first operating systems, I guess you could say I used, was Commodore operating systems. I used a PET computer at school back in the day. You can look that up. And then we eventually got a Commodore 64 at home. Now, the first computer I ever used, and I do call it a computer, was actually a arcade game system, right? You know, the Atari 2600 was big at the time. I had an Odyssey 2, and those are computers. They're just computers for specific things, right? Your game system is a computer. And so that was the first exposure, but then later we got a Commodore 64, and I used that for years and years. When I came to college, I used DOS 2.0 on I was going to say Windows machines. We used to call them compatibles back then, or IBM compatibles. And of course, the first Mac OSs, I used those as well. I tended to gravitate towards the DOS stuff, honestly. I really hated Apple IIs for some reason. I don't know why, but I did. And so I got a lot of experience, and it really changed what I thought. So if a student ever asks me, like, out of all this technology, what do you really love? Like, what would you spend all your time doing? I would tell them operating systems, because growing up in that situation, I had to learn a lot of different operating systems. And so I'm really not tied to an operating system. I'll tell you what's stupid about Microsoft, and I'll tell you what's stupid about Apple. And I try to, for instance, in the 113 class, try to get students to be more open-minded about operating systems, because you don't know what you're going to use, and you shouldn't, diss an operating system just because you don't know what you're doing. And that's what people do. They're like, I hate this. That's what they say all the time. And it's like, no, you just don't know how to use it, right? If you know how to use it, then you don't hate it. You appreciate the good things, and you recognize the bad things. And so I would say operating systems, right? I would spend a lot of time just doing operating systems, and I love networking. absolutely love networking, and I love hacking or security. And no, don't think that I've gone out and done stuff illegal. I haven't done that, but it's fascinating to me. It's fascinating how people get into systems. And that's why, right, we're doing the security program or degree based around certifications. So I've had a ton of experience in hardware, software. If I had enough money, right, the third thing is I would probably buy a notebook, a laptop, as a lot of people call them, every year, just because it's fun. And I would also probably build a computer every single year because that is also very, very fun. I just love doing that stuff. That's why in the CMP 118 class, which is also CIS 180, we spend time doing all that hardware stuff to get you used to how the hardware works, because all computers work the same, right? They're all using the same type of methodology to get things done. We're not using quantum computers here. Anyway, that's a little bit about me, James McBride, your instructor. And I just want to be able to pass on that knowledge. And again, you're in the right place. You're doing the right thing. If you like technology, this is the place for you.